New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. Well, hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert behind the banner here. Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday Science of Mind and Spirit Conversation Series. I am Dr. Robert Brzezinski, your host and facilitator for today. And again, I want to thank you for being with us. I also want to send out a special prayer of gratitude for all of the other participants, all the other speakers that are part of the team that make up this program. Now you get me a couple weeks in a row sometimes because of, like it's the mid part of the summer and a lot of our folks are traveling and we're just getting back from travels. And it just so happens you get me 2 weeks in a row. But here's the cool part. I picked out something completely different for you today. So if it's your first time with us, welcome, welcome. So grateful you're here. Feel free to chat along, interact, leave a comment, drop a name or a number or where you are. Shay Bird's here. Good morning, Shay. Happy day from Cedar Ridge. Exactly. Good to see you. I saw that I had seen the post about that little community space, that 3-acre space with I had seen that already. I saw it myself and I looked at it. Ooh, this is potential. And then you got to see it, tag me on it. So thanks for the tag on that. Folks, here at New Thought Media Network, we have a big, big vision of an impersonal, intentional community here in Colorado and doing the business of New Thought Media Network. And every so often we run across a piece of property that's just perfect for it. So if you or someone you know wants to financially support a great nonprofit in having its own physical home, the sale price on that place is only $3 million. And it's got, 9 cabins in a house or 6 cabins in a house. And it's ready to go to launch something like that. But that's not what today's about. Today is all about Ernest Holmes and the Science of Mind. And at this point, the Science of Mind archive. So we've gone through the book. We've studied the book. And Ernest and the Science of Mind is not the only avenue or revelation of New Thought. And more and more in my ministry, and it says it in the name of the network. So after over 5 years here now, we are about New Thought. And I love that I continue to get to bring Ernest into my newer contemplations of how New Thought is more than Ernest, is more than just the Science of Mind. And in that, we've studied the book. We're now in that part of the year where we don't have any book chapters to study. So we're studying various resources from the Science of Mind archives. And the Science of Mind archives are great. You can troll around in there and see where some things are. And you can purchase a lot of resources for very little money, $1 or $2, sometimes a few dollars for different things. But I have the $10 a month subscription. It's $10 a month. And it goes to a great cause because, well, they're a 501c3 and they're protecting the history of religious science. And for only $10 a month, I can download up to 20 different resources at no cost. So it's an incredible deal if you like searching around in some of the old stuff that we've created. And I tell you, even last week, if you go back and watch the archive from last week, I spoke about a piece from the magazine, Science Mind magazine, by someone I learned from, Reverend Dr. Kathy Hearn. And we looked and explored an article of how she was expressing and bringing forth this great philosophy 10 or 12 years ago or so now. And sometimes we go a little further back. Sometimes we go a little closer to today. And today what I have for you is I have really no information on this piece other than it's in the archives. And I don't know who the author is. So here, let me first and foremost pull this up for you so you can see it. There we go. So the piece is called Ernest Holmes, the First Religious Scientist by James Reed. And you can see again, normally this is $1.99, but because of my subscription, I get it for $0. So that's the name, that's the piece. And I want to come over now and I want to share another the screen of the actual piece. So I'll tell you this. I went and started looking around. I could not find any reference to a James Reed as a religious science minister. I did find some ministers that could have possibly written this, but nothing that I could find that I could point to that said, "Hey, look at this. This is it." Now, sometimes for some reason, I'm also there. We go. Let's go to here. All right. Now we can see. There we go. I think I might go here. Okay. So feel free to chat along, chime along, go with us as we go along. I want to dig into this and share this with you. I'm going to read some of it and provide you some commentary on some of it as well. Again, no idea who the author is or their lineage or how we got to this, but it's in the archives. So there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. Perhaps the most famous quote by Dr. Ernest Holmes that we've had, and I really just don't like that. So let's go to where's my little? There we go. You need the full screen, don't you? You guys all deserve the full screen. I think I might even take it up a notch or two. There we go. All right. The man who first stated that positive belief, choosing those exact words, was speaking to those sharing the 20th century with him. Because of him, countless others have discovered, and countless millions yet unborn will discover a rewarding awareness of their infinite potential. A lifelong searcher and student himself, he was inspired to write a book that would become a textbook, a guidebook for other searchers and students. His book, The Science of Mind, correlated the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion applied to the needs and the aspirations of the human. Please do remember, I like to shift our pronouns to the inclusive when I can, and to bring those into that. And I've always loved that sentence. This is the very definition. This is Holmes's definition of the science of mind. It is the correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of religion applied to the needs and the aspirations of the human. This correlation, sometimes completely new to the world, was also the beginning of the Institute of Religious Science and the School of Philosophy Incorporated, where he and others were to teach and inspire. This, in turn, would lead to the beginning of the Church of Religious Science, later to become the United Church of Religious Science. And herein, folks, we get our first little clue that James Reed of James Reed's lineage, because he in no way talks about Religious Science International here. He refers to the United Church of Religious Science, and that is the lineage. The Institute of Religious Science and the School of Philosophy did become the Church of Religious Science. And at that same time, a second organization was started that was called Religious Science International. And RSI, as it became known, ran parallel to CRS, Church of Religious Science. So IRL and the Institute, RSI, sorry to all my colleagues, RSI and CRS ran parallel to each other for quite a long time. Eventually, some conversations were had about reunifying the two organizations. At that point, RSI adopted the moniker or the name of the International Centers for Spiritual Living, and what was then the United Church of Religious Science, or UCRS, became the United Centers for Spiritual Living. So for a while, we had the International Centers for Spiritual Living and the United Centers for Spiritual Living, which was part of the flux, the way we kind of brought all these organizations together, or these two major organizations together. And that is how we, and the whole way was United dropped the United and International dropped the International. And now we had two organizations that, and a very historic meeting in New Orleans in 2012, dissolved both of those organizations, and a new organization was formed called the Centers for Spiritual Living. So 12 years down the line, 13 years down the line from that is where we are now. I know it's a lot, huh? But this is the first we get an indication of where James Reed's lineage is. So if you asked me, he's probably living somewhere in North America, and writing this from the perspective as a member of a United Church of Religious Science somewhere. Excuse me. Let us continue. As he always insisted, I love this part too. As he always insisted, speaking of Holmes, he did not legislate any of the laws that govern the universe, and he did not invent a secret new way by which humanity can partake of the unlimited good in the universe. He did not legislate any of the laws. He did not argue for or against any of the laws that govern you. And this is Holmes's insistence. We're going to hear more of this throughout this article. It's actually a really good little ebook. He sought only to explain the infallibility of the laws and express the essence of the ever-existent way. No one before him had done that. His work was to make this modest man a man for the ages, a pioneering guide for all humankind. His name was Ernest Holmes. He was born January 21st, 1887, on a small farm near Lincoln, Maine. His parents, William and Anna Heath Holmes, had 9 sons. 9 sons. The youngest was named after a poetic young preacher of that era, Reverend Ernest Shirtleff, who wrote the hymn, "Lead On, O King Eternal." In the order of their arrival, Ernest's older brothers were, so this is from oldest to youngest, Walter, Luther, William, Charles, Harry, who died in infancy, Fenwick, who will play a part later, Guy and Jerome, and then Ernest. He acquired the basics of education in rural schools. Grammar school was in Lincoln and Gould's Academy in Bethel, Maine. He once said, "I quit school when I was about 15 and didn't go back except to study public speaking." From 1908 to 1910, he worked in a store to pay his way, and he attended the Leland Powers School of Expression in Boston. The rest of his prodigious learning came from his insatiable search for what would be more meaningful for anyone to know. He was an omnivorous, I would say. You can tell this is a little bit outdated, that's for sure. He was a student of, and finally an authority on the universal truths and imperishable ideas manifested through the ages in literature, art, science, philosophy, and religion. He spent a lifetime synthesizing his discoveries, and the result, the science of mind, near the close of his life, the result of all that was the Science of Mind text. Near the close of his life, he talked to an interviewer about his own beginnings and the beginnings of religious science. Asked about his quitting school at 15, he said, "I didn't want to be taken care of, so I went to work. What I have gathered has been from reading, studying, and thinking, working, experiencing. It is a long, laborious, tough method, but it pays off. I don't believe there is really another method for me." Ernest, from my perspective, followed the divine inspiration. And we'll hear it again in a little bit. He didn't set out to try to prove anything. He didn't try to be something. He followed his nature as a teacher, as a student first. And you hear this again and again in his language throughout this piece, as a student first, and then as a teacher. And then after that, perhaps as the leader of what becomes a great movement. He didn't set out to build a tribe. He didn't set out to have so many, all these, any number of followers. He set out simply to understand his own life and his own surroundings and his own environment. And I think that is part of what makes him so endearing to so many, is he was not professionally educated. He was not fully educated in that way. And yet he has a way of approachability, and his philosophy is so approachable that let's keep on. And this is a quote from Holmes: "What you will really learn in life will be what you tell yourself in a language you understand, that you accept because it is rational enough to accept and inspirational enough to listen to with feeling. What you will really learn in life will be what you tell yourself." What you tell yourself. And it's all about feeling. "From the beginning, I was a nonconformist. Asking so many questions, I drove my relatives crazy. Fortunately, I was brought up by a mother who refused to have fear taught in her family." I love this. New England theologically was pretty strict, and fear was part of it, right? So New England at that time was theologically pretty strict, but she was a wise woman, and she determined we should never be taught there was anything to be afraid of. Woo-hoo! Except for that inner drive to ask questions, he said, I wasn't strange in any particular way. He saw no visions, had no hallucinations. Even at an early age, he started to study Emerson on his own initiative. About Emerson, and we've heard this said over and over, he said, studying Emerson was like drinking the water to me. I have studied Emerson all my life. At the Leland Powers School in Boston, some of his fellow students were Christian Scientists. An instructor was a reader in the Mother Church. He became interested in some of their thinking, especially about the healing they believed possible by those who prayed in a certain way. If such things were possible to them, then he reasons such things must also be possible to others. For those that join us at prayer time and get a chance to speak and get a chance to listen to my prayers, you will hear me say it so often. is that if any of this is true in my life, then it is true in the one life, and so it is true of all of us. If anything is possible to one person, then it's possible to all of us. And if there is something you are looking to create in your life, we find the mentor, the analog, the mental equivalent. We find someone that's already done it. So we have a recognition that if it's been done, it can be done again with a new skin, with a new, but that more on that later. If such things were possible, he reasoned, such things must also be possible to others. Long afterwards, he elaborated on his reaction. Anything anyone has ever done, anybody can do. There can be no secrets in nature. This I've always believed. There is no special providence, no God who says, I'm going to tell you what I didn't tell any others. So remember that, folks. That is so important. There are no seekers, and there is no special providence. There are those that have studied these things, and those that have invested more of their time and effort in coming to really dig in and study all the various mystics and masters, but it still gives us no special providence. Just because there's an REV or a doctor in front of my name, all of that is just an indication that I've done the work, whatever, and I'm still doing it. And more importantly, those designations are really about a commitment to doing the work. Not even that the work is done, but that we're committed to continuing the work. More on that later, too. Let's get back into this. I don't want to get too sidetracked before we get down the road here. So Ernest comes to California in 1912 on an exploratory visit. 2 years before, his brother Fenwick had sought a warmer climate for reasons of health. He had written Ernest glowing reports about the Los Angeles suburb of Venice, where he had become a home missionary and built a small, thriving church. Ernest, too, liked the climate. He liked helping out on Sunday in the church, and he found a job he liked as a purchasing agent for the city of Venice. What he especially liked about the job was that it allowed him plenty of time to study. He found Los Angeles an exciting place, a growing city of progressive people, in a ferment of expanding their horizons, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually. It was a community of stimulating intellectuals. Anything anyone might want to study was taught there. He said many years later, I began to read and study everything I could get a hold of. No one, and this is a strange sentence, it might be a typo. I began to read and study everything I could get hold of, no one thing. There should be a comma there, no one thing. I started from the very beginning with the thought that I didn't want to take one bondage away from myself and create another. I've always been very careful about that. And this one I want to explore just a minute, because he says he started from the premise that I don't want to take away one bondage only to create another. Don't take away one healing only to create more sickness. Don't create more trauma or suffering in an attempt to alleviate a previous trauma or suffering. And this is an interesting aspect. And I'd like to use, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think I want to write a Substack about this. The use of crystals. Now, I'm not here to poo-poo crystals. I think, I know crystals are rocks. They're a mineral form that transmit and hold energy. They can raise and lower vibrations. And we want to be very careful that even if we use crystals in our healing or in our, let's say, a practice, or let's say a ritual or something of that nature, we want to be very, very clear that we don't become overly dependent on that, on the thing, on the object. We don't create a new bondage. By the way, so prayer falls into this same category. We can't get overly bound by, we can't get overly bound by the process that we lose the sense of the essence of what is happening. We're coming into a greater understanding of ourselves. We happen to have the most, and I love this line too, so let's get back to our reading here. We happen to have the most liberal spiritual movement the world has ever seen, yet it is tied together by the authority of the ages and the highlights of the spiritual evolution of the human race, all of which I have become familiar with over a long period of time, studying it and thinking about it. Yes. Shay's got a good comment here that I like as well. Jim Webb told me the magic is in you, not in the object. Exactly, Shay. Exactly. And I believe that as we come to a deeper study of New Thought, we come to it, and it's been there all along. We talk about it all the time. The power of the presence, the intelligence is within you. And this is the major difference between, let's say, spiritualists and I'm going to just say New Thoughters. A lot of spiritualists believe there is the power that is outside of us, that there's an entity outside of us that wields that power, and that we can use objects to help maneuver that power, but ultimately the power can be cut off by the source. In New Thought, nobody can cut off the source. Nobody can cut off the power. The only person that can turn off the power is you. And you can't do that to anybody but you. And each of us, as we awaken to it and as we embody it and accept it and then turn that embodiment into enlightenment, are using the power for our own good. Let's get back to Holmes. Good sideline. An engineer who frequented Ernest's purchasing office became curious about the books on philosophy and metaphysics and assorted other subjects he had around him, and asked to borrow some. After a while, the engineer suggested inviting a few friends to his house one evening and having Ernest talk to them. Ernest says, "That was the first talk I ever gave." He later revealed it led to others in the homes of other friends. One evening, a lady informed him that she had told the librarian at the big metaphysical library that was then on 7th and Grand, this is in LA or in Venice area, that he would talk there the following Thursday. Talk on what, he asked. Her answer was, what you've been talking about to us here. You're better than any of the people we hear there. Ernest investigated. The hall rented for $1 a class, and the admission price per person was 25 cents. He decided to talk on Troward and the Edinburgh Lectures. This is why that book is still part of canon for religious scientists, if you will. He decided to talk on Troward and the Edinburgh Lectures. Enough people showed up and stayed so that he went home with a $5 gold piece after paying his rent. It was a heady experience. The year was 1916. Within the next 2 years, he was speaking to thousands of people a week in Los Angeles. He wondered how he might fare in other places and began speaking around the country. He soon had a national reputation as a man who stimulated others to think for themselves. Wherever he went, people wanted to hear his message. They were ready for what he was already embarked upon, the great synthesis that would result in the book, The Science of Mind. He later said, it's true that you learn from yourself in doing. He decided to halt the long speaking tours, confine his speaking to the Los Angeles area, and concentration on completion of the book. The year was 1925. That's 2018, 7 years of traveling the country speaking before he gets to a point of saying, all right, we're going to settle down, folks. We're going to stay in LA. Perhaps because he lacked a formal education, he never considered himself a professional writer, yet he wrote prolifically and most persuasively on every subject that deeply interested him. His first book, published in 1919, bore the title Creative Mind. Even that early, he was beginning to find answers to this impelling question. to his impelling search. The Science of Mind was first published in 1926. His revised edition, now translated into numerous languages, including Japanese, was first issued in 1938. In 26, he started speaking each Sunday morning in a theater in the Ambassador Hotel that seated 625. Within a year, the latecomers couldn't get in. The Sunday morning talks were moved in November 2007 to the Ebel Theater, which seated 1295, and within a year, that auditorium was too small. During the next few years, progressive moves were made, one being to the beautiful Sala de Oro of the Biltmore Hotel, and in 34, the services were moved to the large Wiltern Theater at Wiltern Western, with a seating capacity of more than 2,800. There, too, before long, hundreds were turned away every Sunday. Folks, when was the last time you were at a religious science church that had to turn people away? I don't know. Mile High at Christmas? But even Mile High's candle lighting, they have overflow prepared. So we'll give it to Agape. Agape kept things going. There was a long period where Agape, they would have to turn people away. Latecomers would have to stand out in the parking lot and watch a TV screen if they wanted. And they had a screen on the side of the building that they projected onto for what they called the outside sanctuary. It was really the parking lot looking at the side of the building. In 1926, far-sighted friends and important men in Los Angeles had begun to urge him to form a corporation and organize for the inevitable growth of what he was teaching. He said, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start a new religion or be responsible for it." I'm going to explore this in a second. But the friends persisted. As he expressed it later, they argued this was something they thought valuable and the greatest thing in the world, and finally convinced me. A board of governors was chosen, and we became incorporated as a nonprofit religious and educational organization, the Institute of Religious Science and School of Philosophy, Incorporated. The incorporation date was February 27. Ernest Holmes was 40 years old. The purpose of the Institute was to furnish instruction not only in the Science of Mind with Ernest Holmes's books as the textbook, but also to offer lectures by recognized authorities on diversified, allied subjects. So this right here, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I took down your, that's what it said. But this part about, so this article quotes Holmes as saying, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to start a new religion or be responsible for it." Because I hear it all the time that, Ernest said he didn't want to start a church, didn't want churches, and we hear that a lot. Ernest didn't want churches. Not necessarily. Like, this would point that, because he does agree that the thing to do is to incorporate this, and agrees that the most beneficial way for the philosophy is to incorporate as a religion, nonprofit religious and educational organization. I want new thought. I have a vision and a desire for new thought to perhaps drop the language of being a church, but to recognize that a church is still a church. That what we do in the building is sacred, and how we build our community, whether in a virtual space or a physical space, is part of the sacred demonstration of our understanding of this. Let's bring Carl into the conversation. What I love is how pluralistic and universalist it was and still is. A language of inclusion seems there very early on, which wasn't exactly present among faiths we think inclusive of now. You used in Quakers as an example. Yes, Carl. and faith of that time, even ones we know of now, a inclusive. Now that we know of now as inclusive, were not exactly. Yes. If there's anything I think that I can, well, not anything, but one of the aspects that has always impressed me and impressed upon me is the deep sense of inclusivity that Ernest seems to express, not only in his writing, but in informal actions or in things we hear about and such. So now, as we go through this, I'm also being struck by that reminder that this was written after Ernest's death, as we know, and we're using the author, again, unknown to us, is using a lot, is relying heavily on that one of those late interviews. Most of these quotes are coming from the interview that he referenced earlier. And so all right, let us continue. Like the university professors who soon were speaking at his new center of learning, throngs of students were attracted there by its climate of soul searching as well as mind searching. Both instructors and students discovered that this unassuming, self-educated, American-born philosopher, Ernest Holmes, was very practical and highly inspirational. This discovery was something they wanted to share with others. In other ways, 1927 was to be a milestone year for both religious science and its founder. Headquarters and offices, including practitioner offices, as well as a library and lecture halls, were established at 2511 Wilshire Boulevard. I've been by there. We don't own it anymore, so you don't go in. But organizing the institute led to the launching only a few months later of a monthly magazine, Religious Science, which is now the Science of Mind magazine, and it has been in continual publication since then. The institute was not yet equipped to enroll all would-be students who wanted to attend. The magazine was created in an effort to sustain and build the interest that the institute already had generated by word of mouth. Volume 1, Number 1 of Religious Science, there was this announcement by Ernest Holmes. Quote, "The purpose of this magazine will be to instruct ethically, morally, and religiously from a scientific viewpoint of life and its meaning. A semi-religious periodical, ethical in its tendency, moral in its tone, philosophical in its worldview, it will seek to promote that universal consciousness of life which binds all together is one great whole. It will also be the purpose of Religious Science to present to its readers a systematic and comprehensive study of the subtle power of mind and spirit insofar as they are now known, and to show how such power may be consciously used for the betterment of the individual and the human race." Like so many other ideas of Ernest Holmes's, that first issue contains features that I have endured. One was a meditation for each day of the month. It was a one-line meditation at the top of the page in the first issue. Also, there was a listing of Religious Science practitioners, and that first issue carried 8 names, one of which was Anna Holmes, Ernest's mother. In 1929, the magazine was to acquire a new cover design, a new makeup inside, and a new name, Science of Mind magazine. It was a reflection of the proven appeal of this new teaching and the book that explained it. A new announcement assured all readers, as one of many channels for giving to the world the invaluable truths of Science of Mind. This magazine will, to the utmost ability of the organization behind it, serve people everywhere seeking to help them realize their greatest good, not alone in a far distant future, but here and now. The magazine recently celebrated its 68th birthday. I missed that part, so and we're at what, 98? So this was maybe almost 50 years ago. So this would have been in the mid-70s, perhaps. From the beginning, it has been sent out into the marketplace by those confident of its appeal to anyone willing to listen. Today, in a worldwide circulation, each issue is read by many thousands. At least that's still true. But let us return for a moment to 27, lest we forget another event that was made that a special year for Ernest. On October 23rd, 1927, he was married to widow Hazel Durkee Foster. They were to be inseparable companions for 30 years. On April 16, 1935, the organization founded by Ernest Holmes was reincorporated as the Institute of Religious Science and Philosophy. On August 1st of 35, the Institute, having outgrown its quarters on Wilshire Boulevard at the corner of Carondelet Street, moved to 3251 West 6th Street. A new home office building named the Home Center was completed on this site in 1990. That is the building that we no longer own. Excuse me. In 45, in recognition of his book, This Thing Called Life, Ernest Holmes was awarded the honorary degree of Doctor of Philosophy by India's Andhra Research University. Among several other honorary degrees bestowed on him in recognition of his writing and his work were LHD in 1945 from what is now the California College of Medicine, University of California at Irvine, and a literary doctorate in 1949 from the Foundation Academy University of Spiritual Understanding, Venice, Italy. Even earlier in 1949, he was named Commander of the Cross by the Association of the Humanitarian Grand Prize of Belgium. And in 1944, he was named honorary member of the Eugene Field Society, a national group of authors and journalists. You can see almost all of these, I believe, all of these awards and other awarded doctorates and such hanging at the Science of Mind archives at Unity Village. If you're ever there, give it a look or make it a trip. In 1949, he began a popular radio program at 4 p.m. each Sunday on the Mutual Network. It too was titled This Thing Called Life. Each Sunday, his opening words were, "There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it." Millions heard him, and millions heeded him. The growth of the Institute and the number of its graduates, the demand for edition after edition of Holmes's book, The Science of Mind, the constantly increasing readership of Science of Mind magazine, the response to his radio program, and the interest shown in talks on Science of Mind by other speakers wherever they appeared, all led to a change of name for the nonprofit religious and educational corporation, Institute of Religious Science. And on January 4th, 1954, it officially became the Church of Religious Science. By then, even Ernest Holmes was convinced that the world wanted such a church. As he expressed it later, "I finally came to see that all this had been had to be organized so it wouldn't fall apart. And we have a wonderful, democratic, responsible organization governed by a board made up of laymen as well as ministers." In 56, a special bequest made possible a half-hour TV program, This Thing Called Life, and once a week for 26 weeks with Ernest Holmes visible as well as audible to still other fascinated audiences. For the greater part of each half hour, he was alone in front of the camera, not by his choice, but by viewers' choice. On May 21st, 1957, he lost his chosen life companion. Hazel made her transition. There is a great work that Reverend Dr. Mark Gilbert. Sorry, Mark, your name just slipped right out of my head as I was saying it. Reverend Dr. Mark Gilbert, who also presents on this program on occasion. This is great work he's been doing to track down what we really know about this TV program. And there is very little of the tape left. And much of it was never archived, and we're pretty sure much of it was probably lost to time, unless some crazy reason somebody recorded it on a video machine of some sort way back then, and back in the late 50s, right? It was all in the late 50s. So you can find more of that on the archives webpage as well, and more information of that. He's just done a recent great workshop, and I believe that's available on the site. So in January 1960, he presided at the dedication of Founders Church of Religious Science, Los Angeles. It was built at a cost of more than $1.5 million on property at the corner of 6th and Bernardo Streets. I have been in there, and I've stood behind the pulpit, and oh my gosh, it's a powerful building. The magnificent organ in Founder Sanctuary is a memorial to Hazel, and on the lower level of Founders is a beautiful chapel, serene and inspired like the mind of Ernest Holmes, the Holmes Memorial. Ernest Holmes made his transition to the next experience on April 7th, 1960 in Los Angeles. He left no children, but he left all mankind an enduring legacy, the way of life he called the religious science. On that way of life, he said this in 1958. We have launched a movement. Wow. We have launched a movement which in the next 100 years will be the great new religious impulsion of modern times, far exceeding in its capacity to develop the world anything that has happened since Mohammedanism started. We have to have the same faith in what we teach and practice that the scientist has or the gardener has. And when that great simplicity shall have plumbed and penetrated this density of ours, this human stolidness and stupidity, this debauchery of the intellect and the soul, something new and wonderful will happen. It is the only thing that will keep the world from destroying itself. Wow. We are the thing that will stop humanity from destroying itself. I can't say I disagree with the man. Wow. So Shay said she'd like to see the program. Yeah. Again, almost all of the video has been lost, Shay. What's available isn't available through the archive on YouTube. However, Carl said, I wonder if it has parallels with Hopkins and Eddie's programs. We do technically have Hopkins with SCMP. I'm not sure what SCMP is, but that's okay. It's very, very possible, Carl. And, there's a lot of stuff in archives that I don't know about and that others don't know about. The Addington Archives have recently, which is maintained by the International New Thought Alliance, which I am a board member of, has recently been opened, as it were. And we moved that archive to, yes, right on, Christian Science. Thank you. We have material that hasn't been looked at in a long, long time. And so we don't know exactly what's there at this point inside the Addington Archives, but we are making progress with the move, with the opening of that archives. It's coming to life again, and we're starting to learn more. And I have hope we may find some of these even in that archive. And there are other archives around the country that people have started for different reasons, for different people, and we're not really clear exactly what's in all of them. So there may be more of this. But watching Mark's workshop and again, I think it's on the website available. If not, look on YouTube, and if not, hit me up and I'll figure out how we get it to you. But watching that workshop is really good because he goes in depth with why we know we don't have some certain things and where we think certain things might have gone, and to the best of his research from clippings and other pieces put together where the show was, because it moved from station to station. It wasn't always on the same station. It wasn't always at the same time. It moved around a bit, and a lot of that was due to financial. It's expensive to put on a TV show, from what I hear. A little less so to put on a YouTube station channel, but still gets expensive putting it all together. So anyway, that's a whole other story. What I love here is we're approaching that point. We're, let's say, 3/4 of the way. Maybe 70 years, 75 years into that 100 years that Ernest spoke of before he transitioned. We're going to get to that 100 years. And I fully believe that right now more than ever, not just religious science, but the mystics of Christian Science and the mystics of the Unity movement and the mystics of the Divine Science movement and the evolution of other more contemporary bodies, the UU, Quaker traditions, Agape, Hillside, Association for Global New Thought, the affiliated New Thought Network, and even this organization, New Thought Media Network, are carrying forward the spirit of what Holmes shared with us. And I think Holmes would be the first to say that his philosophy is not the totality of this New Thought movement. I don't think he would want to be put on a pedestal, and I don't think he would want to be seen as the end of the lineage. I don't think he would want to be perceived as the definitive, this is it and this is the way it is and that's it. He did not try to adjudicate the law, but he did try to live the law. And we've heard it said before that science of mind is a faith, a philosophy, and a way of life. This article and my sharing today, I want to bring to a close with that same calling. We are a way of life. We are a way of living. If you're here, you most likely understand the philosophy. If you're here, you probably have some sense of faith in your life. I want us to make this, I think this is the age of making it the way of our lives. And as we do that, well, to paraphrase from another great New Thought author, we give others the permission to do the same. As we shine our light, as we take in this recognition that Ernest Holmes, in and of himself, had no remarkable lineage or providence or privilege. And by simply following nature, by following his heart, by following that deep desire to learn, to be a student of consciousness, to be a student of humanity, well, we all have so much more. We're so much further ahead of the game than he may have been in his time. For we have more direct access to the infinite wisdom of life now than ever before. And ultimately, what I believe the science of mind teaches is that we have the most direct access to all of the information that has ever been known. We have direct access to God. We are the living God. We've been convinced otherwise, and we've been convinced that we need to play small or keep it quiet or not be so boisterous or not be so out there, or we've been taught that you wouldn't dare say something like that. We're not demigods. We are not part God and part human. We are, as Jesus, both fully human and fully divine. And I believe that as more and more people across this great planet of ours wake up to that truth, then we have the sacred majority in consciousness that will shift the conditions of our lives, where we will stand up and make a difference in the organizations, in our communities, in society. And we've already have, and we've been doing it, and that's a whole nother talk, and we're almost out of time. So I just want to say thank you again for being with us here this morning. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your interaction and your engaging with the conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let our friends and family know what you're doing, what we're doing. Help bring this amazing philosophy to more life than ever before. Support the Science of Mind Archives. Support the Science of Mind Archives. Did I say that enough? There's the website. They are doing an amazing job there. And it is an amazing ministry that is born up to help us find these pieces. I still don't know who James Reed is, but perhaps somebody will, and drop it in the comments, and we'll share that with you in the future as well. All right, I'm Dr. Robert. I got to get out of here for now. Let you get into the rest of your Saturday. I do hope you have a great day. Enjoy what's out there. Be sure to join us tomorrow. We start bright and early in the morning, 8 a.m. Mountain Time on Sunday mornings, and bring you a great collection of ministers, churches, communities from across the New Thought movement throughout our all-day programming and our live morning programming. So be sure to join us for all of that. Again, I'm Dr. Robert. Until next time, I want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.